James Johnson never imagined that stopping to help a stranded woman on a rainy Tuesday night would completely transform his world. All he saw was a sleek silver sedan broken down on the shoulder, hazard lights blinking desperately in the darkness. And beside it stood a woman who looked like she belonged on magazine covers, not stuck on some forgotten highway outside Millbrook. She introduced herself simply as Ava, just a traveler in need of assistance. But James would soon discover she wasn't just any traveler. She was the secret CEO of a technology empire worth hundreds of millions. And she was about to hand him the keys to a life he never dared to dream of. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. James Johnson wiped the sweat from his forehead with the back of his grease-stained hand, leaving yet another smudge across his tired face. The small auto repair shop in downtown Millbrook felt more like a sauna than a workplace, with the late afternoon sun beating down mercilessly through the dusty windows. He rolled his shoulders, trying to work out the knots that had formed from hours of being hunched over engine bays, fixing other people's problems while his own seemed to multiply by the day. The bell above the shop door chimed weakly as another customer left, and James glanced at the ancient cash register, $43 for a brake inspection. It was barely enough to cover the cost of parts, let alone put food on the table for him and his 10-year-old son, Marcus. He sighed, knowing that at this rate they'd be eating ramen noodles for dinner again tonight. "Dad, you look exhausted," came a voice from the corner of the shop. Marcus sat at a small desk James had set up for him, homework spread out in front of him, but his concerned eyes were focused on his father. The boy spent most afternoons here after school, doing his assignments while James worked, because childcare was a luxury they simply couldn't afford. "Just a long day, buddy," James replied, forcing a smile. "How's that math homework coming along?" Marcus held up his worksheet, covered in eraser marks and frustrated scribbles. "I don't get fractions. Mrs. Peterson says I need a tutor, but—" He trailed off, understanding even at his young age that tutors cost money they didn't have. James's heart clenched. His son was brilliant, curious about everything, always asking questions about how engines worked, why cars made certain sounds, what made the lights turn on. But Marcus was falling behind in school because James couldn't provide the extra help he needed. Every night, James tried to help with homework, but after 12-hour days at the shop, his brain felt like mush, and honestly, some of the new teaching methods were completely foreign to him. "Tell you what," James said, walking over and ruffling Marcus's hair, "after I close up tonight, we'll work on those fractions together. I might not be the best teacher, but we'll figure it out." Marcus beamed. "Really? You're not too tired?" "Never. Too tired for you, kid?" But even as he said it, James felt the weight of inadequacy pressing down on him. He was failing his son, and he knew it. Marcus deserved better than this rundown shop, better than secondhand clothes and generic cereal, better than a father who was always stressed about money and couldn't even help with elementary school math. The Destul shop had been James's dream once. He'd bought it 5 years ago with his savings and a small business loan, envisioning building something that would provide for his family while doing what he loved. He'd always been good with his hands, had a natural understanding of how things worked. Cars, motorcycles, small engines. If it had moving parts, James could usually figure out what was wrong with it, but dreams didn't pay the bills. The loan payments were crushing him. The competition from the big chain repair shops was fierce, and too many customers expected miracles for pocket change. He'd had to let go of his part-time employee 6 months ago, and now he was trying to do everything himself: repairs, bookkeeping, customer service, cleanup. He was drowning, and he didn't see any way out. His phone buzzed with a text message. Another overdue notice, this time from the electric company. James closed his eyes and leaned against the workbench, feeling older than his 32 years. At this rate, they'd lose the shop within 6 months. And then what? His resume wasn't exactly impressive. High school education, some technical training, and years of experience that seemed to count for less and less in today's world. "Dad?" Marcus's voice was small, worried. "Are we going to be okay?" James straightened up immediately, pushing his fears down deep where his son couldn't see them. "Of course we are, Marcus. Everything's going to be fine." It was a lie, and they both probably knew it, but it was the kind of lie that parents tell to protect their young ones from harsh realities. The truth was that James lay awake most nights, staring at the ceiling of their small apartment above the shop, calculating and recalculating numbers that never seemed to add up right. The rain had started around dinner time, a steady drumming against the shop windows that matched James's mood perfectly. By 8 o'clock, he'd finally finished the day's work and was helping Marcus pack up his school supplies when his phone rang. "Johnson's Auto Repair," he answered, hoping for a late customer but expecting a telemarketer. "Oh, thank goodness someone answered," came a woman's voice, strained with frustration and what sounded like genuine distress. "I'm stranded on Highway 47, just outside of town. My car just died, and I have no idea what's wrong with it. I know it's late, but is there any chance you could help me?" James glanced at Marcus, who was watching with interest, then at the rain pelting the windows. Every instinct told him to politely decline. It was late, the weather was awful, and roadside calls were always more trouble than they were worth. But something in the woman's voice, a note of real desperation, made him hesitate. "What kind of car?" he found himself asking. "It's a BMW sedan, maybe 5 years old. I was driving fine, and then it just started making this grinding noise and died completely. I'm completely stranded out here. A BMW. That meant money, which meant a customer who could actually pay for quality work." James made a quick decision that would change everything. "All right, I'll come take a look. Give me your exact location." As he hung up and grabbed his toolbox, Marcus looked up at him. "Road call, Dad." "Yeah, buddy. Want to ride along?" "It's not a school night." Marcus's eyes lit up. He loved going on service calls, seeing his dad work his magic on broken-down vehicles. "Really? In the rain?" James managed his first genuine smile of the day. "Really? But bring a jacket. This could take a while." As they loaded the truck with tools and headed out into the stormy night, James had no idea that he was driving toward the encounter that would either save his life or destroy it completely. Rain hammered against the windshield of James's pickup truck as he navigated the winding curves of Highway 47, his headlights cutting through the darkness like twin beams searching for answers. Marcus sat in the passenger seat, occasionally fogging up his window to draw pictures with his finger, completely unbothered by the storm that had most sensible people safely indoors. "There!" Marcus pointed ahead, his voice cutting through the rhythmic sound of windshield wipers. "I see the hazard lights." James slowed down, squinting through the rain-streaked glass. Sure enough, about a quarter-mile ahead, the distinctive four-way blink of emergency flashes pierced the gloom. As they got closer, the sleek silhouette of a luxury sedan came into view, pulled off onto the narrow shoulder with its hood raised like a white flag of automotive surrender. What caught James's attention wasn't just the expensive car. It was the figure standing beside it. Even in the dim light and driving rain, he could see that this wasn't some helpless socialite waiting for rescue. The woman was leaning over the engine bay, her phone's flashlight illuminating the mechanical components. As she peered intently at something under the hood, her long dark hair was plastered to her head from the rain, but she seemed completely focused on diagnosing the problem herself. "She's actually looking at the engine," Marcus observed with the kind of impressed tone usually reserved for discovering a new video game. Most people just stand around looking scared when their car breaks down. James parked behind the BMW, leaving his hazard lights on, and grabbed his rain jacket from behind the seat. Stay in the truck until I see what's going on, okay? Keep the doors locked. Dad, I'm not 5 years old, Marcus protested, but he settled back into his seat with good-natured resignation. James jogged through the rain toward the stranded vehicle, his boots splashing through puddles that had formed in the uneven asphalt. As he approached, the woman looked up from the engine bay, and even in the poor lighting, he could see that she was strikingly beautiful, not in the artificial way of magazine covers, but with the kind of natural elegance that made you forget to speak for a moment. You must be from Johnson's Auto Repair, she called out over the sound of the rain, lowering her phone's flashlight. I'm Ava. Thank you so much for coming out in this weather. James Johnson, he replied, extending his hand. Her grip was firm and confident, not the delicate handshake he might have expected from someone driving a car that probably cost more than his annual income. What seems to be the problem? Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Ava gestured toward the engine bay with obvious frustration. I was driving along fine, maybe doing 65, when I heard this grinding noise that got progressively worse. Then the engine just seized up completely. I managed to coast to the shoulder, but now it won't turn over at all. James pulled out his own flashlight, a heavy-duty model that cut through the darkness much better than her phone light. As he leaned over the engine, he immediately noticed several things that told him this wasn't going to be a simple fix. The air around the engine bay carried the acrid smell of overheated metal, and there were small puddles of various fluids collecting on the plastic engine cover. When's the last time you had the oil changed? He asked, already suspecting the answer. Ava's silence was telling. When she finally spoke, there was embarrassment in her voice. Honestly, I'm not sure. I've been traveling a lot for work, and I kept meaning to take care of it, but James nodded without judgment. He'd seen this scenario countless times. People so busy with their lives that basic maintenance fell by the wayside until something catastrophic happened. Looks like the engine overheated and seized. The oil probably broke down from being overdue for service, couldn't lubricate properly, and the moving parts essentially welded themselves together from the heat and friction. Is it fixable? She asked. And there was something in her tone that suggested this wasn't just about the inconvenience of being stranded. James straightened up, wiping rain from his face. The engine's probably shot. You're looking at either a complete rebuild or replacement, which on a car like this... He paused, not wanting to deliver the full financial blow all at once. How much are we talking about? Honestly? Probably more than the car's worth at this point. Maybe 12 to 15,000 for a quality rebuild, assuming we don't find additional damage once we tear it down. Ava closed her eyes and tilted her face up toward the rain, letting it wash over her for a moment. When she opened them again, there was something different in her expression, not defeat, but a kind of calculation, as if she were working through possibilities he couldn't see. Can you at least get it to your shop? She asked. I need to figure out my options, and I can't do that standing on the side of the highway. Of course. I'll have it towed first thing in the morning. But tonight, you need to get out of this. Storm, do you have somewhere to stay? Family in the area? She shook her head. I was just passing through Millbrook. Is there a decent hotel nearby? James almost laughed. Millbrook had exactly one motel, and decent wasn't a word anyone would use to describe the Pine Valley Motor Lodge. But before he could warn her about the questionable cleanliness and the neon sign that flickered like a strobe light, Marcus appeared at his elbow. Dad, can't she just stay at our place tonight? His son asked with the kind of innocent logic that adults often overcomplicate. We've got that pull-out couch and it's way better than the motel, plus it's still raining. Really hard. James felt his face flush with embarrassment. Marcus, we can't just invite strangers to... It's okay, Ava interrupted, but there was amusement in her voice rather than offense. Your son has excellent instincts, but I couldn't impose like that. Actually, James found himself saying, surprised by his own words, the motel really is pretty rough, and the couch does pull out into a decent bed. If you don't mind basic accommodations, you're welcome to stay the night. We can deal with your car situation in the morning when we can actually see what we're doing. Ava studied him for a long moment, rain dripping from her hair, and James suddenly realized how this must look. A small-town mechanic and his son offering shelter to a stranded stranger in an expensive car. She probably thought they were trying to run some kind of scam, but then she smiled, the first genuinely warm expression he'd seen from her all evening. You know what? That sounds perfect. I'm Ava Williams, by the way, and I really do appreciate this. Just Ava, Marcus said with a grin. I like that, it's simple. As they gathered her overnight bag from the BMW and James called for a tow truck to collect the car in the morning, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Ava Williams than met the eye. She carried herself with the kind of confidence that came from being accustomed to having control over situations. Yet she seemed genuinely grateful for their help, rather than entitled to it. The drive back to the shop was filled with Marcus chattering away about school, his favorite subjects, and his fascination with how cars worked, while Ava asked thoughtful questions and seemed genuinely interested in his answers. James found himself relaxing despite the unusual circumstances, even as a small voice in the back of his mind wondered what he'd gotten himself into. As they pulled up in front of Johnson's Auto Repair, with its modest apartment above and the warm glow of lights in the windows, James realized that for the first time in months, he wasn't dreading tomorrow. Something about this unexpected encounter had shifted something inside him, though he couldn't quite put his finger on what. He had no idea that his simple act of kindness was about to change everything. The morning sun streamed through the small kitchen window of the apartment above Johnson's Auto Repair, casting warm golden light across the modest breakfast table where James, Marcus, and Ava sat sharing what had turned out to be a surprisingly comfortable meal. James had been worried about having a stranger in their home overnight, but Ava had fit in seamlessly, helping Marcus with his fraction homework the night before and even assisting with breakfast preparation. I have to say, your pancakes are way better than the fancy hotel breakfast I usually grab on the road, Ava said, cutting into her second stack, while Marcus beamed with pride at the compliment to his cooking skills. Marcus is the pancake master in this house, James replied, sipping his coffee and watching his son practically glow from the attention. It had been a long time since Marcus had received praise from someone other than his father, and James could see how much the boy was enjoying having a new audience. So what's the verdict on my car? Ava asked, though her tone suggested she already knew it wasn't going to be good news. James set down his mug and leaned back in his chair. I took a closer look this morning before you woke up. It's pretty much what I suspected last night. Complete engine failure. The cost to rebuild it properly would be more than you'd want to invest in a 5-year-old sedan. Ava nodded, seemingly unsurprised by the diagnosis. I figured as much. I've been putting off maintenance for months, traveling constantly for work. This is what happens when you ignore warning signs. What kind of work keeps you on the road so much? Marcus asked, with the curiosity that only comes naturally to someone his age. For just a moment, something flickered across Ava's face. Hesitation, maybe even calculation, before she smiled. I'm in consulting, technology consulting. I help companies improve their systems and processes. It was a perfectly reasonable answer, but James noticed she didn't elaborate the way most people did when describing their careers. There was something deliberately vague about her response, though he couldn't pinpoint exactly what felt off about it. That sounds interesting, he said, deciding not to push. Must pay well if you can afford to travel constantly. Ava's phone buzzed against the table, and she glanced at the screen with a frown. "Excuse me for just a moment," she said, stepping into the living room to take the call. James could hear her voice, though not the specific words, and noticed that her tone had shifted completely, more authoritative, more commanding than the grateful stranger they'd been hosting. Marcus seemed oblivious to the change, focused on finishing his pancakes before school, but James found himself listening despite trying not to eavesdrop. When Ava returned to the kitchen a few minutes later, she looked different, more polished. Somehow, as if the phone call had reminded her of something she'd temporarily forgotten. "I'm sorry, but I need to make some arrangements," she said, but her smile seemed more professional now, less personal. "James, what would you charge to dispose of the car? I don't think it's worth trying to repair." "Dispose of it?" James raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure? Even with a blown engine, there's probably 3,000 or 4,000 in salvage value. The body's in good shape, the interior is perfect, and the electronics all work fine." Ava waved her hand dismissively. "I don't have time to deal with selling it. Just handle whatever you think is best and keep whatever you can get for it. Consider it payment for helping me out last night." James nearly choked on his coffee. BMW sedan, even one with a dead engine, was worth significant money in parts alone. The wheels and tires were worth at least $1,000, the navigation system another $500, and the leather interior could be sold to restoration shops. She was essentially offering him several $1,000s for providing a night's shelter and a pancake breakfast. "Ava, I can't accept that. It's way too much for what we did." She looked at him with an expression he couldn't read. "Actually, it's not nearly enough, but we'll talk about that later." Before James could ask what she meant, Marcus grabbed his backpack and headed for the door. "Dad, I'm going to be late for school. Can I walk today? It's not raining anymore." "Sure, buddy. Have a good day." As the door closed behind Marcus, the kitchen suddenly felt much quieter, more intimate. Ava sat back down across from James, and now her demeanor was entirely different, focused, businesslike, but not unfriendly. "James, I need to ask you something, and I want you to really think about your answer." "Okay," he said slowly, suddenly feeling like he was about to be offered something he wasn't prepared for. "How long have you owned this shop?" "About 5 years. Why? And how's business been lately?" James felt his defenses rising. "It's fine. We're doing fine." Ava's expression softened slightly. "James, I saw the stack of overdue notices on your desk when I used your phone last night. I saw the way you calculated every penny when we discussed the cost of towing my car, and I saw the look on your face when Marcus mentioned needing a tutor. You're not doing fine. You're drowning." James stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "Look, I appreciate your help with Marcus's homework, and I'm glad we could help you out last night. But you don't know anything about my situation." "You're right," Ava said calmly, not rising to match his defensive tone. "I don't know the details, but I know what it looks like when someone with talent and integrity is struggling because they don't have the resources to compete in a market that's stacked against them." "What are you getting at?" Ava reached into her purse and pulled out a business card, sliding it across the table toward him. James picked it up and felt his stomach drop. The card was heavy, expensive stock with embossed lettering that read, "Ava Williams, Chief Executive Officer, Nexus Technologies." "You're a CEO," he said quietly. "I am. And Nexus Technologies isn't just some small consulting firm. We're a multi-billion-dollar technology corporation with interests in everything from software development to advanced manufacturing." James sank back into his chair, his mind reeling. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wanted to see who you really were when you didn't think there was anything in it for you. And what I saw was a man who drove out in a storm to help a stranger, who offered his home to someone who had nowhere else to go, and who raised a son with enough character to suggest helping someone in need. I still don't understand what this has to do with anything. Ava leaned forward, her eyes intense and focused. Nexus is expanding into automotive technology, electric vehicles, autonomous systems, advanced diagnostics. We need people who understand both the traditional mechanical aspects and can learn to integrate new technologies. But more than that, we need people with integrity, people who understand what it means to build something from the ground up. James's heart started beating faster. Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you an opportunity. We're looking for someone to head up our new automotive service division. Someone who can build a network of certified service centers that combine old-school mechanical expertise with cutting-edge technology support. The kitchen fell silent, except for the ticking of the wall clock. James stared at the business card, his mind spinning with possibilities and doubts in equal measure. This is crazy, he finally said. You don't know anything about my qualifications, my experience, I know you diagnosed a complex engine failure in less than 5 minutes with just a flashlight in the rain, Ava interrupted. I know you run an honest business in the industry, full of people trying to rip off customers, and I know you'd rather struggle than compromise your principles. James looked up at her, searching her face for any sign that this was some kind of elaborate joke or scam. But her expression was completely serious, professional, and somehow hopeful. What would this job actually involve? Relocating to our headquarters in Portland, a salary starting at $120,000 a year, full benefits, stock options, and the resources. To build something significant, Marcus would go to one of the best school districts in the state with all the tutoring and support he needs. James felt like the room was spinning. 6 months ago, he'd been struggling to pay the electric bill. Now someone was offering him more money than he'd ever imagined making, plus the chance to do work that actually mattered on a larger scale. Why me? He asked quietly. Ava smiled, and for the first time since her phone call, it seemed completely genuine. Because sometimes the best person for a job isn't the one with the most impressive resume. Sometimes it's the one with the character to do it right. James stared at the business card again, feeling like he was standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down at either the best opportunity of his life or the biggest mistake he could possibly make. I need time to think about this. Of course. But James? Ava stood up, gathering her things. Don't take too long. Good opportunities don't wait forever. As she headed toward the door, James called after her. How do I reach you? She turned back with a mysterious smile. Don't worry, I'll be in touch. And with that, she was gone, leaving James alone in his kitchen with a business card that might just be his ticket to a completely different life. 3 days had passed since Ava Williams had walked out of James's life as mysteriously as she'd entered it, leaving behind only a business card and an offer that seemed too good to be true. James had spent those 3 days alternating between excitement and skepticism, researching Nexus Technologies online and finding exactly what Ava had claimed. A massive corporation with interests spanning multiple industries, headquartered in Portland and led by a CEO whose professional headshots looked nothing like the rain-soaked woman who had shared pancakes in his kitchen. The corporate photos showed Ava Williams in tailored business suits, her hair styled perfectly, surrounded by executives and investors in gleaming conference rooms. She looked powerful, untouchable, and completely removed from the world of small-town auto repair shops. It was almost impossible to reconcile those images with the woman who had helped Marcus with his fractions and insisted on washing the breakfast dishes. "Dad, you're doing that thing again," Marcus observed from his homework spot at the shop's front counter, where he was working on a science project about simple machines. "What thing?" James asked, though he knew exactly what his son meant. "That thing where you stare at stuff and get all worried looking. You've been doing it ever since the fancy car lady left." James set down the wrench he'd been holding and walked over to where Marcus was constructing a model lever out of cardboard and wooden blocks. "Just thinking about some business stuff, buddy. Nothing for you to worry about." Marcus looked up at him with the kind of direct gaze that 10-year-olds specialized in, the one that seemed to see right through adult evasions. "Is it about the job she offered you? Because I heard you talking on the phone about it yesterday. You were eavesdropping? Not on purpose, you were talking pretty loud. And also, you left her business card on the kitchen table, and I can read." James sighed, realizing there was no point in trying to hide something from someone who lived in a one-bedroom apartment above an auto repair shop. Privacy wasn't exactly abundant in their current living situation. Yeah, it's about the job. It's complicated. "What's complicated about it? She offered you more money than we've ever had, in a place where I could go to a good school, doing a work that sounds way more interesting than fixing Mrs. Henderson's ancient Buick every month." James couldn't help but smile at his son's practical assessment of the situation. "It's complicated because I don't understand why she picked me. People like Ava Williams don't just hand out opportunities to people like us without some kind of reason." "Maybe she likes you," Marcus suggested with the kind of innocent directness that made James simultaneously proud and terrified of his son's emotional intelligence. "It's not that simple, Marcus. Adults always say that, but maybe it is that simple, and you're just making it complicated." Before James could respond, the bell above the shop door chimed, and both of them looked up to see a figure silhouetted against the afternoon sunlight. As the person stepped inside, James felt his stomach drop. It was Ava, but not the casual, rain-soaked version he'd come to know, and not exactly the corporate powerhouse from the online photos either. She was dressed in dark jeans and a simple, but obviously expensive blouse, her hair pulled back in a way that was professional but not severe. She looked like someone who was comfortable moving between different worlds, adapting her appearance to fit the situation. "Hi, James." "Hi, Marcus," she said, and her smile seemed genuine, but there was something more guarded about her demeanor than there had been 3 days ago. "Ava!" Marcus jumped up from his project, apparently delighted to see her again. "Did you come to take Dad to his new job?" "Marcus," James warned, but Ava just laughed. "Not exactly, though I hope we can talk about that. Actually, I came to be completely honest with you about something." James felt his wariness increase. "Honest? About what?" Ava glanced around the shop, taking in the organized chaos of tools, parts, and half-finished repairs. "Can we sit down somewhere? This might take a few minutes." James gestured toward the small office in the back of the shop, a cramped space with a desk, 2 chairs, and filing cabinets that had seen better days. Ava followed him in, while Marcus remained at the front counter, supposedly working on his project, but obviously listening to every word. "The night my car broke down," Ava began once they were seated, "that wasn't an accident. James felt something cold settle in his stomach. "What do you mean?" I was coming to Millbrook specifically to meet you. I'd been researching small automotive repair businesses in this region for weeks, looking for someone with the right combination of technical skill, business integrity, and personal character." "You were researching me?" James's voice was flat, and he could feel anger starting to build. "For weeks." "Your reputation extends beyond Millbrook, James. Other mechanics talk about you, about your diagnostic abilities, about how you treat customers fairly, about how you've managed to keep an independent shop running when most of them have been forced out of business. So the broken car, the stranded stranger act, all of that was fake." Ava shook her head quickly. "No, that part was real. I was driving a rental car that I'd been having mechanical problems with for days. When it finally died on the highway, I was actually about 15 miles from where I'd planned to accidentally encounter you." James stood up abruptly, pacing the small confines of the office. Jesus, Ava, do you realize how manipulative this sounds? I know how it sounds. But I also know that if I'd walked in here 3 days ago in a business suit, introduced myself as the CEO of Nexus Technologies, and offered you a job, you would have been immediately suspicious and probably turned me down without even considering it. So instead, you decided to lie to me. I decided to let you see me as a person first, instead of as a corporate executive. And I wanted to see who you really were when you thought there was nothing in it for you. James stopped pacing and turned to face her. And what did you see? I saw exactly what I hoped I'd see. Someone who would help a stranger in a storm without expecting anything in return. Someone who raised a son with kindness and integrity. Someone who runs an honest business, even when it would be easier and more profitable to cut corners. But you still lied to me. Ava was quiet for a moment, and when she spoke again, her voice was softer. You're right, and I'm sorry. I should have been upfront from the beginning, but James, the job offer is real. My company really does need someone like you, and the reasons I want to hire you haven't changed. James sank back into his chair, running, his hands through his hair. I don't know what to think anymore. Think about this, Ava said, leaning forward. Everything you learned about me over those 2 days, the way I interacted with Marcus, the way I helped with homework, the way I insisted on doing dishes, that was all real. The person you got to know wasn't an act. That's who I am when I'm not in a boardroom. And the person I thought I was getting to know just happened to be a billionaire CEO who was evaluating me for a job. Yes, Ava said simply. Both things are true. James looked at her, really looked at her, trying to reconcile the woman sitting across from him with everything he thought he knew. She met his gaze steadily, not trying to charm or persuade him, just waiting for him to process what she'd told him. Why me? He asked finally. Really, with all the resources your company has, why drive to a small town in Oregon to recruit someone from a failing auto repair shop? Because the automotive industry is changing faster than most people realize. Electric vehicles, autonomous systems, integrated diagnostics, all of that technology is going to require a completely different approach to service and repair. But the companies developing these technologies don't understand the practical side of automotive work. They don't know what it's like to diagnose a problem with limited tools, or how to explain complex repairs to customers who just want their car to work. She paused, choosing her words carefully. I need someone who can bridge that gap. Someone who understands both the old and the new. Someone who can build a service network that combines traditional mechanical expertise with advanced technology support. And more than that, I need someone I can trust to do it right. And you think that's me. I know that's you. James was quiet for a long moment, listening to the familiar sounds of his shop, the hum of the air compressor, the distant sound of Marcus working on his project, the occasional car passing by outside. This place had been his life for 5 years, his sanctuary and his prison all at once. If I said yes, he said slowly, what would happen to the shop? We'd help you close it down properly, make sure all your customers are taken care of, handle the lease termination. You wouldn't lose money on the transition. And Marcus would go to one of the best school districts in the state, would have access to tutoring, advanced programs, whatever he needs to reach his potential. James nodded slowly. The offer was still as tempting as it had been 3 days ago, but now it felt different, more real, but also more complicated. I need more time to think about this, he said finally. Ava stood up, pulling a different business card from her purse. This has my personal cell phone number on it. Call me when you've decided, or if you have any other questions. As she headed toward the door, she paused and turned back. James? The person you met that night, the one who helped Marcus with his homework and made pancakes in the morning, that's who I really am. The CEO thing is just what I do for work." After she left, James sat alone in his office for a long time, staring at the business card and trying to figure out whether he felt more betrayed or intrigued. Outside, he could hear Marcus chattering excitedly, probably having overheard enough of the conversation to understand that the stakes had just gotten significantly higher. The question was whether James was ready to bet his and Marcus's entire future on a woman who had already proven she was willing to manipulate situations to get what she wanted. Even if her reasons seemed noble, the answer, he realized, was going to determine the course of the rest of their lives. 2 weeks later, James Johnson found himself standing in the lobby of Nexus Technologies' Portland headquarters, feeling like he'd been transported to an entirely different planet. The building soared 40 stories into the Oregon sky, its glass and steel facade reflecting the morning sun like a technological cathedral. Inside, everything was sleek lines, polished surfaces, and the quiet hum of serious money at work. Marcus pressed his face against the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the city spread out below them. "Dad, this place is insane. It's like something from a movie." James had to agree. After closing Johnson's Auto Repair and packing their modest belongings into a U-Haul trailer, the transition to Portland had felt surreal. Ava had been true to her word about everything, helping with the shop closure, arranging their relocation, even finding them a furnished apartment in a good neighborhood while they looked for something permanent. But standing here now, James couldn't shake the feeling that he was about to be exposed as a fraud. "Mr. Johnson," a young woman in a crisp business suit approached them. "I'm Sarah Chen, Ms. Williams's executive assistant. She's waiting for you in the conference room on the 35th floor." The elevator ride seemed to take forever, giving James plenty of time to second-guess his decision. When the doors opened, he was greeted by a panoramic view of Portland that took his breath away. But it wasn't the scenery that made his stomach clench. It was the conference room full of people in expensive suits, all of whom turned to look at him as he entered. Ava stood at the head of a massive glass table, dressed in a charcoal business suit that made her look every inch the powerful CEO she was. "James, thank you for coming. Everyone, I'd like you to meet James Johnson, who'll be heading up our new automotive service division." The introductions that followed were a blur of titles and departments. VP of Operations, Director of Technology Integration, Head of Strategic Planning. James shook hands and tried to remember names, but mostly he focused on not looking as overwhelmed as he felt. "So, Mr. Johnson," said a stern-looking man introduced as Richard Martinez, VP of Operations, "tell us about your experience with enterprise-level service management." James felt his throat tighten. "Well, I've been running my own shop for 5 years. A single-location operation serving maybe 50 customers a week," Martinez interrupted. "We're talking about coordinating hundreds of service centers across multiple states, managing thousands of technicians, interfacing with complex supply chains. It's a completely different scale." "Richard," Ava's voice carried a warning, but Martinez continued, "I'm not trying to be difficult, but we need to understand what qualifies Mr. Johnson for this position beyond Ms. Williams's personal recommendation." James felt heat rise in his cheeks, but before he could respond, another voice spoke up. "Maybe we should let him demonstrate rather than interrogate him," said a woman with short gray hair who'd been introduced as Dr. Elena Rodriguez, Head of Technology Integration. She gestured toward a large monitor at the far end of the conference room. "We've been having some issues with the diagnostic protocols for our new electric vehicle platform. Perhaps Mr. Johnson could take a look." The monitor displayed what appeared to be a complex diagnostic interface, showing various system readouts for an electric vehicle that was experiencing multiple error codes. James studied the screen, his initial nervousness giving way to professional focus. This was something he understood, a puzzle to be solved, a problem that needed fixing. "Can you give me some background on the symptoms?" he asked. Dr. Rodriguez pulled up additional screens. The vehicle is experiencing intermittent power loss, charging system failures, and regenerative braking inconsistencies. Our software engineers have been working on it for 3 weeks without finding the root cause. James stepped closer to the monitor, studying the data patterns. After several minutes of silence, he began to see something the others had missed. "You're looking at this as 3 separate problems," he said finally, "but they're all connected. Look at the timing patterns. The power loss always precedes the charging issues by exactly 47 seconds, and the braking problems occur when the battery temperature hits this specific threshold." He pointed to a series of data points that seemed random until you looked at them in sequence. "This isn't a software problem or an electrical problem. It's a thermal management issue. The cooling system is failing to maintain optimal temperature during high-demand operations, which cascades into all these other symptoms." The room fell silent. Dr. Rodriguez pulled up additional diagnostic data, cross-referencing James's theory against the vehicle's actual performance logs. After several minutes, she looked up with obvious surprise. "He's right. The thermal management system has been operating within acceptable parameters according to our specifications, but those specifications were based on laboratory conditions, not real-world usage patterns. So the fix is adjusting the cooling system." "Parameters?" Martinez asked, his tone considerably less skeptical than before. "The fix is redesigning the entire thermal management protocol," James replied. "Your current system works fine for steady-state operations, but it can't handle the rapid temperature fluctuations that occur during normal driving. You need predictive cooling that anticipates demand rather than reacting to it." Ava smiled for the first time since the meeting had started. "Can you elaborate on that?" For the next 20 minutes, James found himself explaining thermal dynamics, heat transfer principles, and practical engineering solutions to a room full of people who had probably never gotten their hands dirty working on an actual car. But as he talked, he realized that his years of diagnosing problems with limited tools and resources had given him something these highly educated executives lacked: the ability to see the big picture when everyone else was focused on individual components. "Impressive," admitted Martinez when James finished his explanation, "but diagnostic skills are one thing. Managing a division with $100 million budget is something else entirely." "Then let's talk about that," James replied, his confidence growing. "You've been trying to solve this problem with software engineers and systems analysts. But the real issue is that you're building service protocols without understanding what actually happens when a customer brings their car in for repair." He walked to the whiteboard and began sketching a simple flowchart. "Right now, your service model assumes that technicians will follow standardized procedures and that customers will behave predictably. But that's not how the real world works." Over the next hour, James outlined a service philosophy that combined Nexus's advanced diagnostic capabilities with practical customer service principles he'd learned from years of running his own shop. He talked about the importance of clear communication, honest pricing, and building trust with customers who might be intimidated by new technology. The future of automotive service isn't just about having the most advanced tools, he concluded. It's about having people who know how to use those tools to solve real problems for real customers. When he finished, the conference room was quiet for a long moment. Then Dr. Rodriguez began asking detailed questions about implementation timelines, training protocols, and quality control measures. Martinez wanted to know about cost projections and staffing requirements. Other executives chimed in with questions about everything from supply chain logistics to customer satisfaction metrics. James answered them all, drawing on his experience running a business where every decision had direct consequences and every mistake came out of his own pocket. He talked about the importance of hiring technicians who could think critically rather than just follow procedures, about creating incentive systems that rewarded quality work rather than just speed, about building relationships with parts suppliers and equipment manufacturers. By the time the meeting ended, 3 hours had passed, and James realized that somewhere along the way, he'd stopped feeling like an imposter and started feeling like someone who belonged in this room as the other. Executives filed out, discussing implementation details and next steps. Ava lingered behind. "How do you feel?" she asked. James looked around the conference room, then out at the Portland skyline visible through the massive windows. "Like I just drank from a fire hose, but also like maybe I can actually do this." Ava's smile was warm and genuine. "I knew you could. The question was whether you'd figure it out for yourself. Was this another test?" "Everything's a test, James. The difference is that this time you knew you were being evaluated." As they walked toward the elevator, James reflected on how much his life had changed in just a few weeks. A month ago, he'd been struggling to pay his electric bill and worried about Marcus's education. Now he was heading up a division of a multi-billion-dollar corporation with resources and opportunities he'd never imagined. But more than that, he was starting to understand that Ava hadn't just offered him a job. She'd offered him a chance to become the person he'd always had the potential to be. The real test, he realized, was just beginning. 6 months into his role at Nexus Technologies, James had found his rhythm. The automotive service division was exceeding all projections, with customer satisfaction scores that made other departments envious, and profit margins that had the board asking him to present his methods to other divisions. Marcus was not only thriving academically, but had joined the robotics club and was talking about studying engineering in college. For the first time in years, James felt like he was building something meaningful rather than just surviving day to day. Which was exactly when Victor Langston decided to make his presence known. It started with small things, delays in parts shipments that forced service centers to keep customers waiting, unexpected regulatory inspections that seemed oddly well-informed, about minor procedural variations, and trade publications running articles questioning whether traditional mechanics could really adapt to high-tech automotive systems. James might have dismissed these as normal business challenges, if not for a conversation he overheard between 2 executives in the elevator. "Langston's really going after Williams this time," one was saying. "He's been systematically targeting every division head, looking for weak spots." Smart strategy. If he can prove her judgment is compromised, the board might finally listen to his takeover proposal. The elevator doors opened before James could hear more, but the names had caught his attention. Victor Langston was a name that appeared frequently in automotive industry news, a corporate raider known for hostile takeovers and aggressive business tactics. What James hadn't realized was that Langston had Nexus Technologies in his crosshairs. That afternoon, James was reviewing service center performance reports when his assistant knocked on his door. "Mr. Johnson, there's a gentleman here to see you. He says it's urgent." The man who entered James's office was probably in his early 50s, with silver hair and an expensive suit that screamed money and power. His smile was perfectly practiced, the kind that probably worked well in boardrooms and country clubs. "Mr. Johnson, I'm Victor Langston. I've been very interested in your work here at Nexus." James stood and shook the offered hand immediately, noting the calculation behind Langston's friendly demeanor. "What can I do for you, Mr. Langston?" "Actually, I think the question is what I can do for you." Langston settled into the chair across from James's desk without being invited. I represent a consortium of investors who are very impressed with what you've accomplished here. We're particularly interested in your innovative approach to integrating traditional automotive expertise with advanced technology. I appreciate the compliment, but I'm quite happy with my current position. Langston's smile widened. Of course you are. Ava Williams rescued you from a failing small-town garage and gave you opportunities you never could have imagined. That kind of gratitude runs deep. Something in his tone made James's jaw tighten. Ms. Williams hired me because I was qualified for the position. Oh, I'm sure she convinced herself of that. But we both know the truth, don't we? A CEO doesn't typically scour rural Oregon looking for executive talent, unless, of course, there are other factors involved. James felt heat rise in his cheeks. I think you should leave. Before you hear my offer? That would be unfortunate. Langston pulled out a tablet and slid it across the desk. We're launching a new automotive technology company. We need someone with your unique background to head up operations. The compensation package should be illuminating. Despite himself, James glanced at the screen. The salary figure was staggering. More than triple what he was making at Nexus, plus equity stakes and performance bonuses that could set him and Marcus up for life. Why would you offer me this? James asked suspiciously. Because you've proven that traditional automotive expertise can be successfully integrated with advanced technology systems. That's exactly what our new venture needs. And it has nothing to do with trying to damage Nexus's service division. Langston's laugh was perfectly calibrated, amused but not mocking. Mr. Johnson, I'm a businessman, not a saboteur. If hiring you happens to benefit my interests while also advancing your career, well, that's just good business. James stared at the tablet, his mind racing. The offer was legitimate, too legitimate to be just a recruitment ploy. But everything about Langston's approach felt wrong, from his assumptions about James's relationship with Ava to his timing. I'll need time to consider this, James said finally. Of course. But don't take too long. Opportunities like this have a way of disappearing if you hesitate. Langston stood and straightened his tie. Oh, and Mr. Johnson, you might want to ask yourself whether your loyalty to Ms. Williams is really reciprocated. People in her position rarely have personal relationships that aren't ultimately transactional. After Langston left, James sat staring at the tablet for a long time. The man's words echoed uncomfortably in his mind, playing on insecurities he thought he'd overcome. Was his relationship with Ava really professional, or was there something more complicated underneath? That evening, James found himself working late again, trying to distract himself from questions he didn't want to answer. Around 9 o'clock, Ava knocked on his door. You missed the department meeting this afternoon, she said, settling into her usual chair. Sarah said you seemed distracted. I had an unexpected visitor, Victor Langston. The change in Ava's expression was immediate and dramatic. Her casual demeanor vanished, replaced by something cold and sharp. What did he want? To offer me a job, and to suggest that my position here is based on personal rather than professional considerations. Ava was quiet for several moments, her fingers drumming against the arm of her chair. When she spoke, her voice was carefully controlled. Victor Langston is a corporate predator who's been trying to acquire Nexus for the past 3 years. He's already made unsuccessful bids for 2 of our major divisions, and now he's targeting key personnel. So this is about business. This is about destroying everything I've built, Ava replied bluntly. Langston doesn't just want to acquire companies, he wants to dismantle them and sell off the pieces. He's targeting you because your division is one of our biggest success stories. James leaned back in his chair. He offered me a lot of money, Ava, more than I ever thought I'd see in my lifetime. I'm sure he did. And if you take it, within 6 months, he'll have gutted whatever company he's supposedly starting and moved on to his next target. You'll be out of a job, and he'll have succeeded in damaging Nexus in the process. But what if he's right about why I got this job in the first place? Ava's grey eyes flashed with something between anger and hurt. James, do you really think I would risk my company's future on personal favoritism? Do you think I would put a $100 million division in the hands of someone I didn't believe was completely capable of running it? I don't know what to think anymore. Then think about this. Ava pulled out her phone and showed him a series of performance metrics. Your division has the highest customer satisfaction ratings in the company. Your profit margins exceed projections by 30%. You've reduced average service times while improving diagnostic accuracy. Those aren't the results of a charity hire. James stared at the numbers, feeling some of his doubts begin to dissolve. But Langston's words still echoed in his mind. He knew exactly which insecurities to target, James admitted. That's what people like Victor Langston do. They find your vulnerabilities and exploit them. The question is whether you're going to let him succeed. James looked at her, seeing something in her expression he hadn't expected. Genuine concern, maybe even fear that he might actually be considering Langston's offer. You're worried I might leave. I'm worried I might lose the best decision I've ever made to someone who wants to use you to destroy everything we've built together. The sincerity in her voice cut through all of James's remaining doubts. Whatever had brought them together, the results spoke for themselves. I'm not going anywhere, James said quietly. Ava's smile was brilliant with relief. Good, because Victor Langston just declared war, and we're going to need each other to win it. As she left his office, James realized that his comfortable new life had just become much more complicated. Langston's visit hadn't been a recruitment attempt. It had been a warning shot. And somehow, James had become a key player in a battle he was only beginning to understand. But for the first time since arriving in Portland, he was absolutely certain of one thing. He was exactly where he belonged, and he wasn't going to let anyone take that away from him. The weeks following Victor Langston's visit brought an unexpected shift in the dynamic between James and Ava. What had started as a professional relationship built on mutual respect was evolving into something deeper, more personal. They found themselves working later into the evenings, their conversations ranging far beyond quarterly reports and service center metrics to discussions about their hopes, fears, and the paths that had led them to this moment. It was during one of these late-night strategy sessions that James began to see past Ava's polished executive facade to the person underneath. Someone who carried the weight of enormous responsibility with grace, but wasn't immune to doubt and loneliness. You know what I miss most about running my own shop, James said one Thursday evening as they reviewed expansion plans for the Northwest region. Rain drummed against the office windows, creating a cocoon of intimacy in the normally sterile corporate environment. What's that? Ava asked, looking up from her laptop where she'd been analyzing competitor service models. The simplicity of it. When Mrs. Henderson brought in her ancient Buick with a rattling noise, I could spend 20 minutes under the hood, fix the problem, and see the relief on her face when she realized it wasn't going to cost her rent money. There was something pure about that. A problem, a solution, a grateful customer. Ava set aside her computer and leaned back in her chair, studying his face. Do you regret coming here? No, James replied without hesitation. But sometimes, I wonder if we're making things more complicated than they need to be. All this data analysis and market research, at the end of the day, people just want their cars to work reliably and affordably. That's exactly why I hired you, Ava said quietly. Everyone else on my executive team thinks in terms of market share and profit optimization. You think in terms of actual human beings with real problems. She stood and walked to the windows, gazing out at the city lights scattered across Portland like earthbound stars. "Can I tell you something I've never told anyone else?" Of course. The night my car broke down outside Millbrook, I was driving back from my father's funeral. James felt his breath catch. In all their conversations over the past months, Ava had rarely mentioned her family or personal life. "Ava, I'm so sorry. I had no idea." He died suddenly, heart attack at 62. Spent his whole life working in a factory, never made more than $40,000 a year, but he was the most honest man I ever knew. Her voice was soft, reflective. The funeral was in the small town where I grew up, about 3 hours from Portland. I hadn't been back there in years. She turned to face him, and in the dim office lighting, James could see vulnerability in her expression that she rarely allowed others to witness. Driving through those rural communities on my way home, seeing all the small businesses struggling to survive, I kept thinking about my father. He would have been so proud of what I've accomplished, but he also would have asked me what I was doing to help people like him, the ones who work hard and play by the rules, but still can't get ahead. "Is that why you were looking for someone? Like me, partly, but it was more than that." Ava moved away from the window and sat on the edge of her desk, closer to James than the formal conference table where they usually worked. "When you helped me that night, when you refused payment and offered your home to a complete stranger, you reminded me of who I used to be before I became so focused on quarterly earnings and board meetings." James found himself studying the curve of her face in the soft office lighting, noticing details he'd never paid attention to before. The way her eyes reflected her emotions more than her words. The small scar on her chin that suggested a childhood filled with adventures. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was thinking deeply. "You're not as different from that person as you think," he said. "The woman who helped Marcus with his homework, who insisted on doing dishes in our tiny kitchen, that's still who you are, is it? Sometimes I feel like I've been playing a role for so long that I've forgotten who I really am underneath it all." The honesty in her admission created a bridge between them that hadn't existed before. James found himself sharing things he rarely talked about. His fears about being an adequate father to Marcus, his guilt over his wife's death, his constant worry that he wasn't smart enough or sophisticated enough for the world he now inhabited. "Sarah died in a car accident," he said quietly, the words coming easier than they had in years. "We'd been arguing that morning about money, about my decision to buy the shop instead of taking a safer job with benefits. She was driving to her sister's house to cool off when it happened." Ava's expression softened with understanding. "You blamed yourself. For 3 years, I was convinced that if I'd been a better husband, a better provider, she never would have been on that road. Marcus was 7 when it happened, and suddenly I was a single father trying to run a business and raise a boy who asked every day when mommy was coming home. How did you get through it? One day at a time. And eventually, I realized that Sarah wouldn't want me to spend the rest of my life paralyzed by guilt. She'd want me to build something good for Marcus, to show him that setbacks don't have to define you." They sat in comfortable silence for several minutes, the weight of shared confidences creating an intimacy that neither had expected. Finally, Ava spoke. "Marcus is lucky to have you as a father. I've watched you with him. The way you listen to his ideas, the way you challenge him to think critically while still supporting his dreams. That's not something you can fake or learn from a parenting book." "He's the best thing I've ever done," James replied. "Everything else, the shop, this job, even meeting you, it's all just been preparation for being the father he deserves." "And what about what you deserve?" Ava asked softly. The question hung in the air between them, loaded with possibilities neither had fully acknowledged before. James found himself looking at her not as his boss or even as his friend, but as a woman who had somehow become essential to his understanding of himself. "I used to think I deserved whatever life handed me," he said finally. Good or bad, I just accepted it as my fate. But being here, working with you, seeing what's possible when someone believes in your potential, it's changed how I see myself. How do you see yourself now? As someone who might actually deserve good things, someone who might be worthy of a second chance at happiness. The air between them seemed to shimmer with unspoken possibilities. Ava slid off the desk and moved closer to his chair, her hand coming to rest on his shoulder. James, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. He stood, bringing them face to face, close enough that he could see the flecks of gold in her grey eyes, close enough to smell the subtle perfume she wore that somehow managed to be both sophisticated and natural. Ava, I need to tell you something, he said, his voice rough with emotion. What? This thing between us, it's not just professional anymore, at least not for me. Her smile was soft and knowing. It hasn't been just professional for a while now. I've just been afraid to admit it. Afraid of what? Afraid of complicating. Something that works so well. Afraid of losing you if things went wrong. Afraid of being the CEO who fell for her employee and compromised her judgment. James reached up and cupped her face gently in his hands. And now I'm more afraid of missing the chance to see what this could become. When he kissed her, it felt like the culmination of months of growing connection, of shared challenges, and mutual respect evolving into something deeper. It was gentle at first, tentative, then more confident as she responded with equal warmth. When they finally broke apart, Ava rested her forehead against his, both of them breathing unsteadily. This changes everything, she whispered. Not everything, James replied. We're still partners in building something important. We're still fighting the same battles. The only thing that's changed is that now we're not fighting them alone. As they gathered their things to leave the office, James realized that Victor Langston's attempt to drive a wedge between them had actually accomplished the opposite. The threat to their professional relationship had forced them to examine what they really meant to each other, and what they'd discovered was worth fighting for. But he also knew that their growing connection would make them both more vulnerable to whatever Langston was planning next. Love, he reflected, was both the greatest strength and the greatest weakness a person could have. And somehow, that seemed exactly right. The attack on James and Ava's relationship came from multiple directions, simultaneously, with the precision and ruthlessness that only someone like Victor Langston could orchestrate. It began on a Monday morning that had started like any other, with James reviewing service center reports while sipping coffee in his office, completely unaware that his world was about to be turned upside down. The first blow came via email from the Portland Business Journal, requesting comment on a story they were running about questionable hiring practices and potential conflicts of interest at Nexus Technologies. The article, which went live an hour later, painted a devastating picture of corporate nepotism and personal favoritism, complete with unnamed sources claiming that James's rapid rise through the company had more to do with his romantic relationship with the CEO than his professional qualifications. The piece was carefully crafted to avoid outright defamation while maximizing damage. It referenced James's modest background and limited corporate experience, contrasted with his unusually rapid advancement and unprecedented access to executive decision-making. The article noted that Nexus's stock price had dropped 3% in after-hours trading following rumors of instability in the company's leadership structure. James was still reeling from the Business Journal article when his phone rang. The caller ID showed Marcus's school number, which immediately sent a spike of panic through his chest. Mr. Johnson, this is Principal Martinez at Marcus's school. I'm afraid we need you to come in immediately. There's been an incident. What? An kind of incident? Is Marcus hurt? He's not physically injured, but there was an altercation during lunch. Some older students were... making comments about information they'd seen online regarding your employment situation. Marcus tried to defend. And things escalated quickly. James closed his eyes, feeling sick. "I'll be right there." The drive to Marcus's school felt endless, with James's mind racing through worst-case scenarios. When he arrived, he found his son sitting in the principal's office with a split lip and fire in his eyes that reminded James painfully of his late wife's stubborn determination. "Dad, I didn't start it," Marcus said the moment James walked in. "But I finished it." "Marcus," James began, but Principal Martinez interrupted. "Mr. Johnson, I understand this is a difficult situation, but we can't have students settling disputes with physical violence. Marcus will be suspended for 3 days. What about the other students? The ones who were bullying him? They'll also face consequences, but Marcus threw the first punch." James looked at his son, seeing the defiance mixed with hurt in his young face. "What exactly did they say to you?" Marcus glanced at the principal, then back at his father. "They said you only got rich because you're dating your boss. They said we don't belong at this school because we're just trash from some small town." The words hit James like a physical blow. He'd worried about how their sudden change in circumstances might affect Marcus, but he'd never imagined his son would have to defend their family's integrity against playground bullies armed with information from business journals. "I see," James said quietly. "Marcus, what you did was wrong. Violence is never the answer to words, no matter how cruel they are. But Dad, no buts. We'll discuss this at home." James turned to the principal. "He'll serve his suspension, and we'll make sure he understands that this behavior is unacceptable." As they drove home, Marcus sat in sullen silence until finally bursting out, "I couldn't just let them say those things about you." "Son, people are going to say a lot of things about our family, especially now that we're in the public eye. You can't fight everyone who has an opinion about us. But it's not fair. You work harder than anyone I know. You earned that job." James pulled over to the side of the road and turned to face his son. "Marcus, life isn't fair. I learned that when your mother died, and you're learning it now. But how we respond to unfairness is what defines who we are. Fighting bullies at school won't change what they think or what their parents tell them at home. Then what am I supposed to do? You're supposed to live your life with integrity, work hard, treat people with respect, and let your actions speak louder than their words." That afternoon, James returned to the office to find the corporate rumor mill in full swing. Conversation stopped when he walked into rooms, and he caught colleagues exchanging meaningful glances when they thought he wasn't looking. The story had clearly made its way through the company's internal networks, creating an atmosphere of speculation and judgment that made every interaction feel loaded with hidden meanings. Ava was in meetings all day, dealing with concerned board members and damage control with major clients. When she finally made it to James's office that evening, she looked exhausted and stressed in a way he'd never seen before. "How bad is it?" he asked. "Bad," she replied, sinking into the chair across from his desk. "The board is asking questions about our relationship and whether it compromises corporate governance. 3 major clients have requested reassurance that our personal involvement won't affect service quality, and our stock price is down 7% since this morning." Jesus. "I'm sorry, Ava. I never wanted my presence here to cause problems for you. This isn't your fault. It's Victor Langston's handiwork, and it's only going to get worse." She pulled out her tablet and showed him a series of documents. He's filed a formal complaint with the Securities and Exchange Commission alleging insider trading and corporate governance violations. He's also retained a public relations firm to investigate our hiring practices. James felt his stomach drop. "What does that mean?" "It means he's going to dig into every aspect of our relationship, looking for anything he can use to damage both of us professionally. Your financial records, Marcus's school enrollment, even our personal communications could be subject to scrutiny. Can he do that? If he can convince regulators that there's evidence of impropriety, yes. And even if he can't prove anything, the investigation itself will be damaging. The business world doesn't like uncertainty, and uncertainty is exactly what Victor is creating. James ran his hands through his hair, feeling the weight of responsibility crushing down on him. Maybe I should resign, take myself out of the equation before this gets any worse. Absolutely not, Ava said firmly. That's exactly what he wants. If you resign under pressure, it validates every allegation he's made. It makes us both look guilty and destroys everything we've built together. But if staying puts you and the company at risk, James, look at me. Her voice was steady, commanding the attention that had made her a successful CEO. We're not running from this fight. Victor Langston has underestimated us before, and he's doing it again. He thinks he can destroy us with rumors and innuendo, but he's wrong. What do you want to do? We fight back, we document everything, your qualifications, your performance metrics, the business case for every decision we've made together. We show the world that our relationship, personal or professional, has only made this company stronger. That night, James lay awake in his bed, staring at the ceiling and wondering if he'd made a terrible mistake. By allowing his feelings for Ava to develop into something more than professional respect, had he jeopardized not only his career, but hers as well? And more importantly, had he put Marcus in a position where his son would have to defend their family's honor against accusations that James wasn't entirely sure he could refute? The Business Journal article had asked uncomfortable questions about the appearance of impropriety, about whether James's relationship with Ava had influenced his hiring and advancement. While James knew in his heart that he'd earned his position through merit, he also knew that perception often mattered more than reality in the corporate world. As he finally drifted off to sleep, James realized that Victor Langston had succeeded in planting seeds of doubt that would be difficult to uproot. The man was playing a long game, using public pressure and regulatory scrutiny to force James and Ava into defensive positions that would drain their energy and resources. But Langston had also made a critical miscalculation. By attacking James's family and threatening the life they'd built together, he'd given them something worth fighting for that went far beyond corporate success or personal ambition. The stakes had been raised, but so had their resolve. The real battle was just beginning. The breaking point came on a Thursday afternoon when James thought the worst was behind them. 3 weeks had passed since the Business Journal article, and while the media attention had been brutal, they'd weathered the initial storm. Nexus's stock had stabilized, the SEC investigation was proceeding slowly but hadn't uncovered any actual wrongdoing, and James had begun to believe they might survive Victor Langston's assault on their reputation. He should have known that Langston was just getting started. James was in the middle of a conference call with service center managers from across the Pacific Northwest when his assistant knocked urgently on his door. She held up a note that made his blood run cold. Marcus's school called emergency, come immediately. Ending the call abruptly, James grabbed his keys and raced across town to Westbrook Academy, his mind cycling through every possible catastrophe that could befall a 10-year-old boy. But when he arrived at the school, he found something worse than any physical injury. He found his son sitting in the principal's office with red-rimmed eyes and the kind of defeated posture that broke James's heart. "What happened?" James demanded before anyone could speak. Principal Martinez looked uncomfortable, exchanging glances with a woman James didn't recognize. Someone in an expensive suit with a briefcase and the officious bearing of a government bureaucrat. "Mr. Johnson, this is Rebecca Chen from the Department of Social Services," the principal said. "There's been a complaint filed regarding Marcus's welfare and living situation." James felt the world tilt beneath his feet. "What kind of complaint?" The social worker opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. "We've received allegations that Marcus is being neglected due to your demanding work schedule and unstable living situation. There are also concerns about the recent media attention affecting his emotional well-being and educational environment." "That's ridiculous. Marcus is perfectly fine. Tell them, buddy." But Marcus wouldn't meet his eyes, and James realized with growing horror that his son was terrified, not of social services, but of being taken away from the only parent he had left. "Mr. Johnson," Ms. Chen continued, "we also have reports that Marcus has been involved in physical altercations at school, that he's been exposed to inappropriate media coverage about your personal life, and that his living situation has been unstable due to your recent career changes. Our living situation is excellent. We have a beautiful apartment, Marcus is excelling academically, and the incident at school was an isolated event where he was defending our family against bullies. Nevertheless, we're required to investigate all reports of potential child welfare issues. I'll need to conduct interviews with Marcus, inspect your living arrangements, and review documentation regarding his care and supervision." James sank into a chair, the full scope of what was happening finally hitting him. This wasn't about Marcus's welfare. This was Victor Langston's final, most vicious attack. Unable to destroy James professionally, he'd found the one thing that could break him completely, the threat of losing his son. "Who filed this complaint?" James asked, though he already knew the answer. Ms. Chen glanced at her paperwork. "The complaint was filed by a concerned citizen who wishes to remain anonymous, but they provided detailed information about your family situation and recent circumstances." "Can I see the complaint?" "I'm sorry, but that information is confidential." To protect the reporting party, James felt rage building in his chest, the kind of fury that could make a man do something stupid and irreversible. But Marcus was watching him, and James forced himself to remain calm. "What happens now? I'll need to interview Marcus privately, and then I'll need to visit your home this evening. Depending on what I find, we may need to consider temporary placement while we complete our investigation." The words hit James like a physical blow. Temporary placement, foster care, the possibility of losing Marcus, the one thing in his life that mattered more than anything else. "Dad?" Marcus's voice was small, scared. "Are they going to take me away?" James knelt beside his son's chair, taking the boy's hands in his own. "No, Marcus, I promise you that's not going to happen. We're going to get through this together, just like we always do." But even as he said the words, James wasn't sure he believed them. Victor Langston had found his weak spot and was pressing it with surgical precision. That evening, Ms. Chen conducted her home inspection with the thoroughness of someone looking for problems to document. She examined the refrigerator, checked Marcus's bedroom, reviewed his homework and school records, and asked detailed questions about his daily routine, supervision arrangements, and emotional state. "Your son seems well cared for," she admitted, after 2 hours of scrutiny. "His living conditions are excellent, and he's clearly bonded with you. But there are still concerns about the instability created by your recent career change and the media attention surrounding your personal life." "The media attention isn't something I can control, and my career change has been nothing but positive for both of us." "Perhaps. But children need stability, Mr. Johnson, and from the outside, your situation appears quite volatile." After Ms. Chen left, James sat with Marcus on the couch, both of them emotionally drained by the ordeal. "Dad, what if they decide I can't live with you anymore?" Marcus asked quietly. "That's not going to happen, son, I promise you. But what if it does? What if I have to go live with strangers?" James pulled his son close, feeling the weight of every decision he'd made over the past year. "Marcus, listen to me carefully. No matter what happens, no matter what anyone says or does, you are the most important thing in my life. I will fight anyone and anything to keep us together. Do you understand me?" Marcus nodded against his shoulder, but James could feel the boy's fear in the tension of his small body. That night, after Marcus had finally fallen asleep, James called Ava and told her what had happened. Her response was immediate and fierce. "He's using your son as a weapon," she said, her voice tight with controlled rage. "This is beyond corporate warfare. This is evil. I can't let him take Marcus, Ava. I'll give up everything else, the job, the money, even us. But I can't lose my son. You're not going to lose him, and you're not giving up anything else either. We're going to destroy Victor Langston before he can destroy your family." How? He's got resources, connections, and apparently no moral boundaries. What do we have? We have the truth. And we have something he doesn't, people who actually care about us and are willing to fight for what's right. The next morning, James woke to find a text message from an unknown number. "Withdraw your support for Williams and resign from Nexus. Do this by 5 p.m. today, and the child welfare investigation disappears. Refuse, and things get much worse for your son. This is your only warning." James stared at the message for a long moment, then showed it to Marcus, who was eating breakfast at their kitchen table. "What does it mean, Dad?" "It means some very bad people are trying to force me to quit my job by threatening our family. Are you going to do it?" James looked at his son, this brave, intelligent boy who had already endured more loss and upheaval than any 10-year-old should have to face. Marcus was watching him with complete trust, believing absolutely that his father would find a way to protect them both. "No, son, I'm not going to do it, even if it means they might take me away." James knelt beside Marcus's chair, looking directly into his eyes. "Especially because they threaten to take you away. Because if we give in to bullies now, they'll never stop bullying us. And because I would rather fight and lose than surrender and live with the knowledge that I let evil people win." Marcus smiled then, the first genuine smile James had seen from him since this nightmare began. "Good. I don't want you to quit either. We're fighters, right, Dad?" "That's right, buddy. We're fighters." As James drove Marcus to school that morning, he realized that Victor Langston had just made the biggest mistake of his predatory career. By threatening Marcus, he'd crossed a line that transformed this from a business dispute into something far more personal and dangerous. James Johnson had spent his adult life as a peaceful man, focused on building rather than destroying, on creating rather than conquering. But some things were worth fighting for with everything you had, and his son was at the top of that very short list. The war was no longer about corporate success or personal ambition. It was about family, justice, and the kind of future James wanted Marcus to inherit, and James intended to win it, whatever the cost. James Johnson had always been a man who preferred solving problems with his hands rather than his words, who believed in hard work over clever schemes. But sitting in Ava's penthouse apartment at midnight, surrounded by laptops, legal documents, and the detritus of 3 days' worth of takeout containers, he was learning that sometimes you had to fight fire with fire. "Tell me again how you got this," James said, staring at the computer screen that displayed what appeared to be Victor Langston's private email correspondence. Ava's smile was sharp, predatory, in a way that reminded James she hadn't built $1 billion company by playing nice. "I have friends in the cybersecurity industry, very talented friends who believe that corporate bullies should face consequences for their actions. This is legal, right? The information was obtained through entirely legal means. Langston's email security is surprisingly poor for someone who makes a living destroying other people's lives." Dr. Elena Rodriguez, Nexus's head of technology integration, looked up from her laptop, where she'd been cross-referencing financial records. "James, you need to see this. We found the smoking gun." She turned her screen toward him, displaying a series of bank transfers and corporate filings that painted a devastating picture of Victor Langston's business practices. 3 months ago, Langston established a shell company called Pacific Northwest Investment Group. That company has been systematically shorting Nexus stock while simultaneously funding the attacks on your reputation. James frowned, trying to follow the financial complexity, explain that in terms a mechanic can understand. He's been betting against our company's success while actively working to ensure that success doesn't happen, Ava explained. Every time our stock price drops, due to negative publicity, he makes money. The child welfare complaint, the SEC investigation, the media attacks, they're all designed to tank our stock value so he can profit from our misery. That's got to be illegal. Highly illegal, confirmed Sarah Martinez, the securities attorney Ava had retained to help with their counterattack. Market manipulation, securities fraud, potentially conspiracy charges if we can prove coordination with the anonymous sources feeding stories to the media. James leaned back in his chair, feeling a grim satisfaction settle in his chest. After weeks of being on the defensive, they finally had weapons to fight back with. "What about the child welfare investigation?" he asked. "Can we tie that back to him?" Dr. Rodriguez pulled up another screen. "We can't prove he filed the complaint directly, but we can prove he paid for it. The concerned citizen who reported you to social services received a $50,000 consulting fee from Pacific Northwest Investment Group 2 days before filing the complaint." "Who was it?" "A private investigator named Thomas Reed, who specializes in what he calls lifestyle audits for wealthy clients going through custody disputes." James felt anger surge through him, hot and pure. The idea that someone had been paid to spy on his family, to manufacture a crisis that could tear Marcus away from him, was almost unbearable. "We've got him," Sarah said, organizing documents into neat piles. "Securities fraud, market manipulation, harassment, potentially extortion, based on the text message he sent you. This is enough to end his career and put him in federal prison." "Good," James said quietly. "What do we do next?" Ava stood and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Portland's skyline. "We don't just defend ourselves anymore. We go on the offensive." The plan they developed over the next several hours was elegant in its simplicity and devastating in its potential impact. Rather than simply presenting their evidence to authorities and waiting for justice to slowly grind forward, they would orchestrate a coordinated assault on Victor Langston's reputation and business empire. Dr. Rodriguez would use her contacts in the tech industry to ensure that Langston's market manipulation scheme became public knowledge among the investment community. Sarah would file complaints with the SEC, FBI, and State Attorney General's office, complete with comprehensive documentation of Langston's illegal activities. And Ava would leverage her relationships with business journalists to ensure that the story received maximum media coverage. But James insisted on handling the most important piece personally. The next morning, he drove to the offices of the Department of Social Services and requested a meeting with Rebecca Chen, the social worker who had been investigating his family. When she saw the evidence he'd brought, documentation of the payment to Thomas Reed, copies of Langston's emails discussing the child welfare angle, and a complete timeline showing how the investigation had been manufactured, her professional composure cracked. "This is highly irregular," she said, reviewing the documents with growing alarm. "If what you're showing me is accurate, then this entire investigation was initiated under false pretenses. Ms. Chen, I understand you were just doing your job, but my son has been terrified that he's going to be taken away from the only parent he has left. That fear was created deliberately by someone who wanted to use it as leverage against me." She set down the papers and looked at him directly. "Mr. Johnson, based on my assessment of your home and your relationship with Marcus, I was already planning to recommend that this case be closed. What you've shown me today ensures that recommendation will be strongly worded and immediate. What about the person who filed the complaint? If this evidence is authentic, Thomas Reed will be investigated for filing a false report and potentially charged with fraud. We take manufactured complaints very seriously. That afternoon, James picked Marcus up from school with news that made his son's face light up with relief and joy. It's over, buddy. The investigation is closed and nobody is ever going to threaten to take you away from me again. Marcus hugged him fiercely in the school parking lot, not caring that other kids might see him being emotional. What happened to the bad man who was trying to hurt us? He's about to find out what happens when you mess with the wrong family. The coordinated release of information about Victor Langston's crimes hit the business world like a tactical nuclear weapon. By noon the following day, his investment firm was under investigation by 3 federal agencies. His major clients were withdrawing their money, and business journalists were calling it one of the most brazen cases of market manipulation in recent memory. Langston's attempt to fight back only made things worse. His lawyers issued threatening statements about industrial espionage and corporate conspiracy, but their bluster couldn't overcome the mathematical precision of financial records showing exactly how he'd profited from attacking Nexus Technologies. The final blow came when the Portland Business Journal, the same publication that had originally run the hit piece on James and Ava's relationship, published a front-page expose titled "The Predator: How Victor Langston Built an Empire on Other People's Misery." The article detailed not just his recent attacks on Nexus, but a pattern of similar behavior spanning 15 years and dozens of companies. That evening, James and Ava sat in his apartment, sharing a quiet dinner, while Marcus worked on homework at the kitchen table. The TV news was running coverage of Langston's arrest on securities fraud charges, but they'd turned the sound down to avoid subjecting Marcus to any more adult drama. "It's really over?" James asked. "It's really over," Ava confirmed. "Langston's facing federal charges that could put him away for 20 years. His investment firm is being liquidated, and every business deal he's touched in the past 5 years is under investigation." "What about us? The company, I mean." "Our stock price hit an all-time high this afternoon. Turns out investors love it when CEOs and their teams fight back against corporate bullies." James reached across the table and took her hand. "And what about us personally?" Ava's smile was radiant with hope and possibility. "I think we've proven that we make a pretty good team, whether we're building service divisions or fighting off predators." From the kitchen table, Marcus looked up from his math homework. "Dad, does this mean we can finally just be normal now?" James and Ava exchanged glances, then both started laughing. "Son," James replied, "I don't think our version of normal is ever going to look like other people's normal. But yeah, I think we can finally just be ourselves without worrying about who's trying to tear us down." As they cleaned up after dinner, James reflected on how completely his life had transformed. A year ago, he'd been a struggling small-town mechanic, worried about making rent. Now he was the head of a division at a billion-dollar company, in love with an extraordinary woman, and secure in the knowledge that his son would have every opportunity to reach his potential. But more than the external changes, James had discovered something about himself he'd never known before. When the people he loved were threatened, he was capable of fighting with a strategic intelligence and ruthless determination that surprised even him. Victor Langston had thought he was attacking a simple mechanic who would crumble under pressure. Instead, he'd awakened something fierce and protective that wouldn't rest until justice was served. The war was over, and James Johnson had not only survived it, he'd won it completely. 1 year later, James Johnson stood on the deck of his new house overlooking the Columbia River, watching Marcus and 3 of his friends from school playing basketball in the driveway below. The sound of their laughter mixed with the gentle lapping of water against the dock, creating a symphony of contentment that still felt almost too good to be true. The house itself was a testament to how completely their lives had transformed. 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, a workshop in the garage where James could still tinker with engines when the mood struck him, and enough space for Marcus to invite friends over without everyone feeling cramped. It was the kind of home James had dreamed of providing for his son, but had never dared believe they could actually afford. "Dad," Marcus called up from the driveway. "Can we order pizza for everyone?" "Sure, buddy. Just make sure you ask their parents first." As Marcus pulled out his phone to start making calls, James marveled at the confidence his son had developed over the past year. The scared, defensive boy who had felt compelled to fight bullies with his fists had evolved into a young man who solved problems with intelligence and surrounded himself with friends who valued his character over his family's financial status. The sliding door behind James opened, and Ava stepped onto the deck carrying 2 glasses of wine and wearing the kind of relaxed smile that had become more common as the pressures of the past year faded into memory. "The automotive service division just posted its best quarterly numbers ever," she said, handing him a glass. "Customer satisfaction is up, profit margins are exceeding projections, and we're opening 12 new service centers across the Southwest." "Not bad for a small-town mechanic and his charity case boss," James replied with a grin. "Don't even joke about that," Ava laughed, settling into the chair beside him. "Though I have to admit, I love watching people's faces when they realize the guy they dismissed as unqualified is revolutionizing an entire industry." James sipped his wine and watched the sun begin to set over the river, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold that reminded him of those first nights in Ava's corporate apartment when they'd worked late into the evening, building something. Neither of them had fully understood yet. "Any regrets?" he asked quietly. "About what?" "About taking a chance on a guy whose biggest qualification was knowing how to fix a broken-down BMW on the side of the road." Ava turned to study his profile, her expression serious despite the light-hearted nature of their conversation. "James, do you know what our division's customer retention rate is? 94%. Why? Do you know what the industry average is? 67%. And do you know why we're so much better than everyone else?" James shrugged. "Better diagnostic tools, more comprehensive training programs, clearer communication with customers. All of that, yes. But the real reason is that you built a service philosophy based on treating people the way you wanted to be treated when you were struggling to keep your own shop afloat. You created systems that prioritize honesty over profit maximization, that assume customers are intelligent human beings rather than marks to be exploited." She leaned forward, her grey eyes intense in the fading light. "That approach didn't come from business school or management consulting. It came from your character, from the values you developed working with your hands and raising a son on your own. So no, I don't have any regrets about taking a chance on you. My only regret is that it took me so long to realize what I was looking for." Before James could respond, Marcus's voice drifted up from below. "Dad, Mrs. Patterson from next door wants to know if you can look at her car tomorrow. She says it's making a weird noise and she trusts you more than the dealership." James chuckled, remembering Mrs. Henderson and her ancient Buick back in Millbrook. "Some things apparently never changed. Tell her I'll take a look after work," he called back. "You don't have to do that anymore, you know," Ava pointed out. "You're the head of a division that manages hundreds of professional technicians. You don't need to fix neighborhood cars in your spare time." "I know, but I like doing it. It keeps me connected to the work that got me here." As the evening darkened and Marcus's friends were picked up by their parents, the 3 of them, James, Ava, and Marcus, found themselves sitting around the kitchen table sharing leftover pizza and talking about everything and nothing. It was a scene of domestic normalcy that would have seemed impossible just 2 years ago, when James was struggling to keep his shop afloat, and Ava was working 18-hour days building her corporate empire. "So," Marcus said, twirling cheese around his fork, "when are you two gonna get married?" James nearly choked on his pizza. "Marcus, what? It's a reasonable question. You're clearly crazy about each other. We all live together now, and Ava already helps me with my science projects better than most parents help their own kids." Ava laughed, reaching over to ruffle Marcus's hair. "Your son has a point, James. We are practically married already. Is that a proposal?" James asked, his heart suddenly beating faster despite the casual nature of the conversation. "Maybe it is." The kitchen fell silent, except for the soft hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of water lapping against their dock. Marcus looked back and forth between the two adults, his expression shifting from mischievous to genuinely hopeful. "Well," he prompted, "are you going to answer her?" James looked at Ava, this extraordinary woman who had seen potential in him when he couldn't see it in himself, who had fought beside him against enemies who wanted to destroy everything they'd built together, who had somehow fit seamlessly into his small family as if she'd always belonged there. "Ava Williams," he said formally, sliding out of his chair and dropping to one knee beside the kitchen table. "Will you marry me?" Her answer was immediate and radiant. Yes. Marcus cheered and threw his arms around both of them, creating a three-person hug that felt like the completion of something that had been building since that first night on the highway outside Millbrook. 6 months later, they were married in a small ceremony overlooking the Columbia River, with Marcus serving as best man and Dr. Elena Rodriguez officiating. The guest list was deliberately small: close colleagues from Nexus, a few neighbors, and James's old friend Jackson, who had driven up from what remained of Millbrook for the occasion. "Never thought I'd see the day," Jackson said during his toast at the reception. James Johnson, the guy who used to eat ramen noodles for dinner 3 nights a week, marrying a billionaire CEO. But you know what? They're perfect for each other. They both believe in working hard, treating people right, and fighting for what matters. As the evening wound down and the last guests departed, James and Ava found themselves alone on their deck, sharing a quiet moment under the stars. Marcus had fallen asleep on the couch hours earlier, exhausted from the excitement of the day. "So," Ava said, leaning against the railing and gazing out over the water, "what happens now?" "Now we build something together," James replied, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "We grow the business. We raise Marcus. We probably argue about whose turn it is to take out the trash. And don't forget traveling. I want to show you Paris, Tokyo, London. All the places I went for business but never really saw because I was always in meetings. As long as we're home in time for Marcus's basketball games." Always. They stood in comfortable silence, listening to the night sounds of the river and the distant hum of the city. James reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them to this moment, from a broken-down car on a rainy highway to a wedding celebration in their own backyard. "You know what I think about sometimes?" he said quietly. "What's that?" "What would have happened if I hadn't stopped to help you that night? If I'd driven past your car and left you stranded on the highway?" Ava turned in his arms, her face illuminated by the soft glow of their porch lights. "But you did stop. That's who you are, James. You're the kind of person who helps strangers in storms, who fights for what's right, even when it's difficult, who builds things instead of tearing them down. And you're the kind of person who sees potential in people before they see it in themselves. We make a good team, the best." As they finally headed inside, James paused to look back at the river one more time. Somewhere out there in the darkness, Other people were struggling with their own challenges, facing their own crossroads, wondering if they had the courage to take chances that might change everything. James hoped they would find that courage, because sometimes, when you help a stranger fix their broken-down car, when you take a leap of faith into an uncertain future, when you fight for the people you love against impossible odds, you discover that the life you dreamed of was waiting for you all along. All you had to do was be brave enough to reach for it, and sometimes, if you were very lucky, it reached back. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.